Mike Barrett in with us for Good Policies. How are you?
Other than a little confused.
How come?
You said 3 words, and then you said 2 words. You said 3 words, Elliot Amin. So that's 2 words.
No, 3 words the name of the song.
Oh, okay. All right.
You've been out of radio too long.
Over my head.
Over my head and under my feet.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
It's a carpet when I fall down. Good to have you in here. We had a great chat last week here. I love your motto. I love the motto when when we hear your commercials throughout the day. The worst time to find out that you don't have coverage or the right coverage is when a loss happens.
Yeah. And that's truth be told, more people experience that than I wish upon anyone. I really wish that people didn't have to deal with that. But it's the truth of our industry. It's a complex world. It's a complex industry. And there are many things that can happen that may or may not be covered, and you wouldn't know until it's not covered.
So we talk about car insurance, we talk about business insurance, we talk about life insurance, we talk about all the aspects that the entire agency presents to consumers out there. What are some of the common, I don't know if you want to call it misconceptions, but some of the common mistakes that folks make when it comes to insurance?
The easiest one I can give you an example on is auto insurance.
Okay.
So auto insurance, of course, you have to have the compulsory insurance, which is the liability to be legal to drive in the state of Vermont, and for all intents and purposes, although it's not necessarily fully required in New Hampshire, there are times where it is. So, but you also would have physical damage coverage. So liability and physical damage coverage, that is an auto policy right there. So that's the nuts and bolts and basic parts of it. So what's not automatic and what's not included unless you specifically add it would be roadside assistance or towing and labor. So if you have a breakdown on the side of the road, you either just call and get a tow truck and get reimbursed, or you call a toll-free number and get dispatched. So like a little mini AAA, so to speak, is available with many companies. But the biggest one, rental reimbursement.
Oh, boy.
Rental reimbursement. So that's the one that I see all the time. And here's how rental. So these particular parts of the policy, liability, once you've chosen that limit, it applies to any vehicle from that point forward that you put on the policy. You cannot have different liability limits for each vehicle. You can have different physical damage deductibles for each vehicle. And then if you want to have rental reimbursement, you have to add it to every vehicle that you want it to be available for.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
This may be a ridiculous question, but maybe it popped into somebody's head.
I love
out
ridiculous
there.
questions. Go ahead.
That's right. The stupidest question, the one you never ask.
Exactamundo.
So, rental insurance. Okay, I put that on my insurance. Okay, so that means if I have an accident, the car has to go in the shop. I don't have a car. I get a rental, right?
Right.
Now, does rental insurance also say I hit you? All right, I've hit your vehicle. You don't have renter's insurance.
Rental insurance.
Rental insurance, right? Does it cover your rental if you don't have it?
So that would be triggered as a liability.
Okay.
So that would fall under the liability portion of the auto policy if you're the at-fault party and the other party is now without a vehicle. But that, as many people can attest, and I talk about that very recently with many people, not everyone's always happy with how the other insurance carrier handles the claim. So you can, at that point, proceed with a claim on your own insurance, even if it's not your fault. And there's always that opportunity for your company to better serve your needs, and then do what we call subrogate back to the other party and say, look, this is what we paid our client. You owe us this. So that happens very frequently. But the biggest thing to think about is you don't think of rental reimbursement until you need it.
Right.
And people who I remember having a very clear dialogue with saying, here are some of the other coverages, rental reimbursement, and going along the list. Nope, don't need any of that. I'm like, well, let me just explain it. And we go through, nope, don't want it. And then an accident happens. And typically question number 1 is my insurance going up? And question number 2 is, do I have rental reimbursement?
Do I have a rental car? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the easiest example. But there's some other great ones too. You know, the advent of Lyft and Uber, delivering pizza, delivering food. Those are things that your auto insurance company does not take into consideration. So if you just have a regular old auto policy and you go, you know what, I'm going to start delivering pizza now. That's great. If you get in an accident, you're probably going to find out something's not going to be properly covered. You could find that there are some loopholes there because it's going to give the company an out. Because now the company is saying, well, you never disclosed to us that you're using this car for this purpose. If you did, we probably would not have insured you.
Well, this might go back then to our chat from either last week or the week before, because sometimes, especially this time of year, things run together for me. You mentioned something about like somebody decides they're going to get some chickens and sell some eggs.
Yes, that's another great
Similar,
example.
Okay.
Exactly. You know, somebody gets sick off the eggs that you're selling. Is your insurance going to cover it? Probably not if they don't know about it, because that's a business exposure, because you are being compensated for the eggs. And one of the most common exclusions on a policy for liability is business, unless specifically endorsed. And not every company even supports that. So that's something you want to have a dialogue with. Airbnb, VRBO,
Yeah.
short-term rentals. There are two types of rentals most commonly that are available. Long-term rentals, like you are a long-term tenant renting on a long-term basis. You're not leaving unless you're told to.
I hope not.
Right?
I love it.
So that's one level of rental, and most companies will consider that. They typically don't have a problem with it. In fact, many companies cater to that type of exposure. Now, let's go to, I'm going to do short-term rentals so people can come ride the trails, or people can go skiing, or people can come do some water activities at my camp, or what have you. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, or 4 day stays, and there's a frequency there. That's a short-term rental. That is not the same as a long-term rental. So that can be a problem too. But the problem being is that at that point, insurance companies most likely would have to pay, because I've had a hard time finding ways for them to not. It's more of the acceptability in the onset. But if you are doing these different things, that can change the way companies even want to protect you. So it's important to, before you come up with a business idea, or actually, no, come up with a business idea, but make part of that process the due diligence of how and when, because an accident will occur. Do you have equipment breakdown coverage on your business owner's policy? If you do you have loss of income from that? If you have a failure of a unit at your location of business that is detriment to you making money, that no longer is available. That's another thing. I mean, business owners have a ton of different things available to them too, where you need to consider what is and what isn't available. Do you have spoilage coverage? Do you have dependent property coverage? What's that? Dependent property is that your income is based on this other property supplying you, and this other property now is gone because it just had a huge fire, and now you don't have stock. Can that probably be an issue for you? Yeah, it could. So these are all things that you could be filing a claim and go, huh? Are you kidding? And that's very, very upsetting. I'm not going to deny anybody that. It is a very upsetting thing to find out what it's not covered. So that's why it's important to have the upfront stuff.
Well, they all always have the conversation. That's the important part.
Exactly.
And
so don't assume that you're going to have coverage when you need it.
As we wrap it up, I'm not sure you realize this or not, but you did perfectly what I was planning on doing anyways. We talk an awful lot about personal insurance, but you also cover business, and we touched on both. So if folks want to get in touch with you for either?
Yeah, give us a call, 748-5224. Visit our website, thebarrettagency.com. We're also easily available on Google, Facebook, and YouTube as Barrett Insurance Agency, and on Portland Street in St. Johnsburg.
And Tuesday mornings right here at 8:35.
Absolundo.
Thank you, buddy. Have a great week, okay?
You too, sir.
All right. Good policies and magic in the morning, taking us up to music from